the specialty coffee market press the farmers into, I want this varietal, I want this process, I'm going to pay more for this, and glorify certain varietals to be the higher prices. So farmers, just to do whatever to survive, in many ways have been very reactive to what the trends tell us, right? Um, if I do think that there are a lot of good, smart farmers that are like, I'm going to stick to what I know works in my farm, and I'm going to stick to what I know I can do best. And I'm one of those stubborn ones where my coffee is consistent, and I preach that to Farmers Project. Our lots are consistent so that people can rely on us and know what we're doing. So we're not chasing trends. We'll let that be another
Other people
market
can
segment.
do that. Right.
Yes, yes.
The coffee industry is headed into a defining year. 2026 will be the year coffee's crisis meets its crossroads, and the businesses that plan ahead will be the ones that have the best chance to make it through stronger. I'm inviting you to join me for a 3-hour live workshop called Future-Proofing Your Coffee Business, Planning for 2026 and Beyond. Together, we'll build your 12-month roadmap, including a pricing strategy, risk plan, and cash flow model that helps your business stay profitable even through uncertainty. There are 2 sessions available to suit different time zones. December 1st will be perfect for time zones related to the Americas, Europe, and the MENA region, and December 3rd will be perfect for time zones related to Asia, Australia, New Zealand, and also the MENA region. Early bird tickets are $99 until November the 17th. Learn more and reserve your seats at mapitforward.coffee/workshops or search Future-Proofing Your Coffee Business on Eventbrite. If you've trusted Map It Forward to get you through the coffee crisis so far, check the show notes for links, and we'll see you in December. Welcome to the Daily Coffee Pro by Map It Forward, friends. I'm your host, Lee Safar, and this is episode 2 of a 5-part series with Marianella Baez Jost from the Farmers Project in Costa Rica. She has a coffee farm, Café con Amor, and we are talking about coffee market volatility from the perspective of a Costa Rican coffee farmer, but specifically a smallholder farmer. And that's really important because of all the volatility that we've been experiencing in 2025. Marianella, as we look at the volatility and as we talk about what are the forces that are creating that volatility for farmers in 2025, how important do you think being aware? You're more aware than most, but what do you think is going to separate out the people, let's say in farming communities, that are going to be able to take advantage of what's happening now and those who are not?
From the farming side, I know the people that have direct trade relationships and very strong relationships are going to be the ones that not only survive, but thrive. Really, there is an opportunity to thrive here. Of course, this also goes back to a lot of work that has been done to lay the ground for those foundation for those relationships. You can't fake it quickly and just go to origin now and all of a sudden say, "Hey, we're doing real direct trade. I wanna buy your coffee and stuff." It is amazing for us to see the demand of coffee. I got an email from Qatar and asking for coffee. I have gotten emails from people all over Europe, all of a sudden wanting to figure out a way to buy coffee from our farms. So I see that the people that have the demand is coming, and if you have the capability and you have prepared and you have laid the ground to be ready for those things, a lot of people are going to capitalize from the farming side. Yeah.
Now, in the last episode, we talked about, how you guys or how you were experiencing 2025. There were 2 more points that you wanted to mention. What were they?
2 more things. One is we're experiencing it with an eager spirit because the new generations of farmers, the people are taking the reins. If they're taking the reins, of course, I also should share the reality. When I started farming in Costa Rica. We bought our farm in 2013. There were
Mhm.
48,000 farmers in Costa Rica. Today, not even 27,000. So it's almost a 50% depletion in 10 years, okay? That's not something to ignore. This is probably what hits me the hardest, to see the landscape of my beautiful country
Mhm.
become an Amazon warehouse distribution, a Walmart center distribution, because Central America points now to be another distribution center for those big companies. So, but eager, when I say eager, is because the new generation is looking at the local markets. And when we talked about those baristas competitions, one thing that it does, when you glamorize the roasting, the cupping, and the barista, the youth, of course, and everybody's on Instagram and social media, are looking at that like celebrity stuff, right? So there is a lot of young people starting their own coffee careers, and that's also bringing more people roasting, more people having their labels, more people caring about quality. So locally is raising the bar of coffee, which is great. I can drink good coffee in my own
Mhm.
country. I mean, even 5 years ago, it's hard to find it unless you
Mhm.
have it in your suitcase or you have it in your house, or wherever you go, carry your own, but yeah, so eager. And then I believe worried, and this goes to the forces topic in your
Mhm.
next question, is uh, worried because climate change and labor. Those are two things that are hit closer to the farm level. Climate, we can't do anything about it but react. Well, yeah, there's preparation in the nutrition of your farm, and in erosion control and in shade control and things like that may help
Mhm.
some of the elements that climate can bring and pound your coffee and your trees and your soil. But you can't avoid it. But the labor part, climate also affects the labor part, because climate dictates the timing of that harvest and how hard it is or not to pick that coffee. And so when people talk about quality, we can do all the things right at the farm level and at the agro and ecological level. But if climate decides to just rain and rain, we may not have the right flowering. Or if climate decides to just start pouring, it can damage all the beautiful beans that we were forecasting to be certain microlots. The varietals also ripen at different times. So
Mhm.
when you're babying a varietal and you're committed to deliver a certain amount of bags to your customers that pre-order that, and the rain keeps on coming, you can't get it to that perfect ripeness, because now you have to balance in between picking now and saving what you got,
Mm.
or letting it be and losing it to the ground. And guess what? The immigrants that are the people that are our hands in their, the helpers of picking, also are being pulled in every direction, because everybody's like, oh my God, it's raining here. We have to pick this. We have to save this. And that raises the cost of labor. So that's why sometimes microlots are very different in pricing. It's not only the cup and the profile of that cup, but it's also how difficult it is to harvest that coffee at that right point, so that we can process it and give people that higher cup profile that they expect. So yeah, those are forces that we're worried about.
So we've got climate, we've got labor, succession is an issue,
Yeah.
right?
Okay.
And we've got a reduction in supply because there's almost half as many farms as there used to be 10 years ago. And people
Yeah.
still say to me, but Lee, like, you worry too much. That someone will figure out a problem, figure out an answer to this problem. And I'm like, guys, I don't think you understand. Coffee, for many reasons, is diminishing in supply at an astonishing rate.
Yeah. And I like to add one that maybe it's not from the farming side, but it's
Mhm.
a volatility that is a huge force for us, and it is actually consumer trends.
Oh, yeah.
Because we have we the specialty coffee market press the farmers into, I want this varietal, I want this process, I'm going to
Yeah.
pay more for this, and glorified certain varietals to be the higher prices. So farmers, just to do whatever to survive, in many ways have been very reactive to what the trends tell us, right? Um, i- if I do think that there are a lot of good, smart farmers that are like, I'm going to stick to what I know works in my farm, and I'm going to stick to what I know I can do best. And I'm one of those stubborn ones where my coffee is consistent, and I preach that to Farmers Project. Our lots are consistent so that people can rely on us and know what we're doing. So we're not chasing trends. We'll let that be another
Other people
market
can do
segment.
that. Right.
Yes, yes. And but the the consumer trends, because of you're worried when you see the coffee market go to 435, our own very conscious consumers, which are the roasters, are having to change their own mission because they can't now afford those really high-end coffees. And so we see them looking for, I need cheaper coffee for blends. I need to lower my cost, however. And then we're seeing how their consumers are asking for cold drinks, highest, volume, and now functional drinks and sugar bombs and cocktails. And so the coffee is becoming a lesser
An
ingredient in
ingredient.
these drinks. So why in the hell am I staying up at night thinking that are we going to be able to pick the beautiful San Roque red honey that is, who are people really going to care for that, or do we need to actually be more in the just kind of uh, safe zone of really good quality and differentiate ourselves in the real direct trade that we do? Because everybody is kind of it seems like the new generation is not caring so much about that black coffee. Instead, everybody is drinking it with some other ingredient, and mostly very masked with sugar, whipped cream, and now got health after you drink that. Which is ridiculous.
They add
We're gonna
protein
be
powder
seeing
and
that on
all
the
it,
lake.
lion's
Yeah,
mane mushroom. And I'm like,
yeah,
what the
yeah. You're
fuck are
gonna
you
get
doing?
really healthy having that
What?
2,000 calorie drink. Yes.
Unicorn and rainbows in
Yeah,
an
just
ice
keep on
latte.
yeah, ching ching. They keep on adding another scoop of this, scoop of that. You don't even know what they're putting on.
Well, and George Howe, like his new cafe has at the top of it, drink black coffee. He's constantly pushing this. I want everyone to just drink more black coffee. And I said to him, like, George, do you think that that's a losing battle? Do you think it's going to be? He's like, well, Lee, we must insist and encourage people to drink black coffee, because otherwise we're not giving producers the incentive to grow coffee that should be drunk black.
Yeah, well, but Lee, another trend that we can't fight. We just have to adapt. I mean, there are things we just have to adapt. You're not going to take the sugar away from people. If you think about the generation prior, those moms were sitting at Starbucks, catching a break with a nice, back in the day, whatever trendy drink it was. And Starbucks was already creating the little baby sugar bomb. Well, those are the 20-year-olds now that will
Yeah,
never
yeah,
go
you're
back to
right.
it. Like, yeah, right. But the other trend is, why would farmers sacrifice so much to produce beautiful coffees when everybody's going through a drive-through and convenient and fast? And when you see Luckin coming in too, where everything is three buttons and I get my power drink, whatever. So for us, we have to be adapting and thinking about that. And we want our roasters and our partners to succeed. And in order for that to happen, we need to create a really good balance between quality, consistency, and pricing. So, and for example, one of the changes we made 2 years ago already, we don't bring geisha anymore. I had geisha, I ripped it out of my farm,
A lot of
and
people are
other
saying
people
that.
just let it go. It's like, no, why would I try? I mean, it's too much of a pain to produce, to market, to sell, and it's a small volume. It's not going to make that big of a difference. Too bad, so sad.
Well, and with the prices where they're at and the lack of like the short supply of labor that's available, if you can create a coffee quality, let's say a scale of coffee quality that works for you and your direct relationship partners, and you're able to create that at a price point that works for everybody, I'm not sure that you have to be chasing rainbows to impress other people if your customers are not interested.
Yeah, yeah. No,
It's
I
just too
agree.
hard.
I agree, and I think that again, back to the forces of climate, is that even if we wanted to, we are having to change to varietals that are more resistant. And
Yeah.
those varietals, some of them are surprising us with good cups. Some of them are they need a lot more refining and work in the processing side to see, ooh, this fits better this way or the other way, or do we do a honey on this, or could this be a great coffee for a natural coffee? But yeah, the varietals is. I am very pleased to see that at least our network of partners are not so stuck in what varietal and what the terroir. Can you tell me this and can you tell me that? They're more on, let me cup the coffees, send me the samples, and they are being smarter about fitting the coffee into the palate of their customers. Because that's what I tell people. We can produce beautiful micro lots, but is that the right coffee you want
Yeah.
to
Are
sell
you going to
to
buy
your
them?
community?
Yeah.
I mean, it's, and especially if you're going to use it with a lot of whipped cream and caramel. I mean, what the heck?
I mean, and it destroys those kinds of coffees.
Yes, yes. So, yeah.
In the next episode, folks, we're going to be talking about the important ways to prepare for 2026. And the reason that Marianella and I decided when we were trying to figure out the flow of this series, the reason we decided to talk about 2026 so early in the series is because 2025 really is the setup for what 2026 is going to be the more serious of the 2 years in this coffee crisis. And so we want to really get into that as we move through this series. So join us for the next episode. Peace, love, and peanut butter. Have an amazing rest of your day. This episode is part of a 5-part series produced by Mapper Forward. Check the full playlist and guest details in the show notes, as well as how you can support our work in the coffee industry. Become a premium YouTube subscriber, explore our Patreon and any brands we've partnered with to bring you this podcast. Please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. It really does help us grow our audience.